Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Let's talk about our future, the future of our party and our country.
I plan to take us back into government. I've been a team player under 4 different prime ministers, but now I plan to lead the team.
We must never let this happen again. We must be better. We can be better.
Who wants to be the next leader of the Tory party? Well, those are 3 of the 5 candidates still in the running. They're all focused on the future. But what about the present? Hello, this is Bloomberg UK Politics. I'm Stephen Carroll.
And I'm Yuan. Welcome to the programme. So 1 down, 5 remain. Priti Patel is out of the race for the Conservative leadership, having come last in the secret ballot of the 121 Tory MPs. In a moment, we're going to talk to Chris Wilkins, formerly of our Bloomberg UK Politics election panel. But before we dig into the politics of all of this, I think we should have a reminder of how the process works. Stephen, I'm giving you that job.
It feels a bit like you're handing over to me on the countdown part to do the sums. We have another round of MP voting to happen next week, which will whittle the candidates from 5 down to 4. They then get to pitch to the party conference in Birmingham at the end of the month. MPs then vote again, and the final 2 will be put to an online ballot of Conservative Party members. So that will bring us to a result on the 2nd of November, all going well, 3 days before another election that you might have heard of.
Thanks, Carroll. Right, let's chew this over with Chris Wilkins, formerly of our election panel, who's also CEO of communications firm Audley Advisors and a former head of strategy at Downing Street and chief speechwriter to Theresa May. Chris, now let's start with an easy one. Who would you like to win, and who do you think will win?
Lovely question. Well, like a lot of Tory members, I'm watching it play out, so I'm not yet decided. Who do I think will win? The standard rubric for these things is to say that the favourite never wins. Favourite has long been Kemi Badenoch, though interestingly, she didn't come first in the ballot yesterday. If you pinned me to it now, I would say Kemi probably, though, is the most likely victor for a number of reasons. I think her views chime with Tory members. But if you look at the support she's drawn, she also has significant support from some of the people who were formerly behind David Cameron. And I think that sort of support is interesting and puts her in a good position. So don't hold me to it, but as you asked, that would be my answer today, I think.
So, interestingly, there wasn't a huge divergence in the numbers of who voted for who. Robert Jenrick got 28, he got the most, and then Mel Stride, still in the race, got 16, and everyone else is kind of in the middle. So you're not looking at anyone vastly ahead in this race so far. I'm interested to hear, though, that you're undecided. What do you think that Tory members will be listening out for in terms of kind of the key things that might draw them towards a leader?
Well, I think what's interesting about the discussion so far is because it's been all about the MPs, it's been quite limited. What the membership, I think, will be looking for is a much broader conversation of coming weeks around what it is that the party now stands for and what we believe, and a sense of direction, because I think that's been lacking. The reason for the lengthy process, which you've just outlined, is so that actually the party can take stock of where it is and have that conversation, a big debate about kind of what conservatism is about and what the future looks like. And somebody needs to seize that mantle. Now, nobody's done that at the moment. It's been a very narrow discussion about what's your view on the ECHR and little tactical things like this. I think the person who stands up, like David Cameron did famously when he stood for leadership and says, look, I'm going this way, this is what I believe, follow me, and convinces members that actually that is a path back to government. That's the big discussion we need. We haven't seen it yet, but hopefully it will happen during conference and onward.
Chris, you are our weekly gloomster in the run-up to the election, and I don't want to give you PTSD, but what's your summary of why the Tories lost? And do you think any of the candidates have kind of got a grip on that?
There's been a bit of reflection on it, I think. I think it's fair to say that the Conservative government as was lost that sense of service and put sort of ego and other things in front of it. And a few candidates reflect on that. I think that's right. But as I say, that broader discussion is actually the divide in the party, in a sense, which Brexit sort of, I guess, opened up. But actually has never really been resolved around what it is the party really stands for now. So Kemi Badenoch's way of saying this is, well, that we sort of spoke right but governed left. Other people have other views of it. But ultimately, it was a lack of a sense of service, but also what is the Conservative Party for? And I think voters didn't know that anymore. I don't think the party knew it. So that is now what we need to answer in this discussion. And if we go through this process and have not had that conversation, not satisfied with the answer to that, and think actually we just need to wait for the Labour government to fail and then we'll be there to pick up the pieces, that would be a missed opportunity and a waste of this moment. So that's what we need to do. So I'm not sure we've got there yet, and that's what needs to happen.
On that point of the Labour government failing, how optimistic are you that the Tories can avoid a 2001 scenario when the party made absolutely no progress in 4 years against Teflon Tony? Keir Starmer's favourability ratings are already quite negative, aren't they? Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting thing. If you talk to people in the Conservative Party at the moment, there's a strange sense of, I would hesitate to say optimism, but it's not pessimism. So Labour got a big majority, but it was really broad and thin, as many people have said. And actually, politics is very volatile. So mathematically, is it possible to overturn that in one parliament? Well, yes, it probably is. And there is a sense that actually Keir Starmer isn't that popular, and the government has made some missteps already. They're getting some things wrong, and actually their satisfaction ratings are going negative, and we're only a couple of months in. So there's a strange sense of, as I say, if not optimism, at least a sense of this isn't as bad as it could have been. And so if the Conservative Party gets this decision right, I think they feel that actually they can avoid that 2001 scenario, and at least at the next election, if not wholly overturn it, at least get back to a position where they would be within a fighting chance of overturning it in time after that. So all is not lost, but they do need to answer that question about what they're all about, and then make the selection of leader based on a true understanding of the answer to that question.
Do you think the membership is sufficiently engaged in this? I mean, it was such a bruising election defeat that you couldn't blame people for taking a bit of a break from politics for a while and perhaps letting to see things play out. I mean, are these candidates going to get enough of the base, as it were, fired up and interested in the campaign to secure that vision?
I don't think that's happened yet. I think people are pretty disengaged in terms of the membership. Partly, it's been summer, it's the post-election period, and a lot of the activists and members have sort of taken probably a bit of a break. And this initial phase is all about the MPs. The candidates are entirely focused on getting through the MP ballot and getting to conference. So conference will be the big moment, and that's really when somebody has the opportunity to stand up and sort of mark themselves out as different, both in terms of what they're saying, but also how they approach leadership, how they show up. And I imagine after conference you'll see a lot more of a galvanised membership engaged in the process. But it's just the way the process works that right now it's all about Westminster. It's all about getting through the MP ballot. And that's why, as you saw yesterday, I mean, it's very close at the moment. So that's what they're focused on.
Being leader of the opposition is a famously tough job. And of course, there's a sense when there's a new government that, frankly, nobody is listening. But that's really key, isn't it, for the next 5 years? Who do you think of the candidates will be best at getting their voice heard? Yeah,
it's a really tough job, and in many ways, very different skill sets are required to then being Prime Minister. I think two people who've sort of shown they have that ability so far, I would say one is James Cleverly. Some of the analysis he's provided has been quite forensic and interesting on some of the things the government has done. And he comes with that sort of big experience of having been Foreign Secretary, Home Secretary, etc. So quite a breadth of experience, which he can apply to being quite then forensic about scrutinising the government. So I think he's done quite well. But I think the other person then who is good at sort of taking the headlines and getting themselves a platform is Kemi. And there's no doubt that she definitely gets cut through in the way that you want a leader of opposition to achieve. The question for her is ultimately whether those are on the right issues and on the things that are really going to move voters in the direction of the Conservative Party. And at the moment, I think that's probably where the jury is slightly out. But certainly from a political point of view, she definitely makes an impact in the way you want somebody to do.
If you're looking at how to attract new voters, though, the Young Conservatives have written to candidates expressing concern about a lack of attention being paid to younger members. Do you think that's a fair criticism from what you've heard so far?
I do. And I think that is one of the big challenges for the party as a whole. When I talk about the party needing to have that big conversation about what it's all about and what it stands for, I think that's probably one of the big questions it needs to answer, because frankly, in government for the past number of years now, it was all skewed towards older voters, because older voters were traditionally the people who would come out and support the Conservative Party. And the offer to younger voters has not really been there. And I remember having this conversation with a former minister a number of years ago in the aftermath of the Brexit referendum. And I said to them that my concern is that we're going to lose generations of younger voters, and we don't have an offer for them. And he said to me, "Don't worry, Chris, as people get older, they always become more conservative." I don't think that's true anymore. Maybe it was once, it's not now. And we need to craft that offer. So that's one of the things where somebody can mark themselves out and make a difference. If they come up with that offer, that will be interesting.
You talked at the beginning about never betting on the favourite. Interestingly, the money on Betfair and some of the other gambling sites is now on Robert Jenrick, pushing Kemi Badenoch into second favourite. I'm just interested on your take on how you think the membership will vote, because they've often been quite unpredictable in the past, haven't they?
They have been unpredictable. And there's also a bit of a caricature about what the Conservative Party membership really looks like. People, I think of them as sort of older, very right-wing members, and that's not actually the case. So that adds the unpredictability. I think Robert Jenrick has a lot to say to the members that they will like. But what the Conservative members really want, and we've seen this time and time again, really, is they want a winner. They want somebody who's going to actually take them into government. That's what they did when David Cameron stood up. David Cameron wasn't particularly in tune with the views of Conservative members all the time, but he said that I will win the election, I'll take you back to government, and he looked plausible and they believed it. And it's the same you can look later with, for example, Boris Johnson. Whatever you thought of him, whatever they thought of his views, they thought he was a winner. That's the opportunity at conference. Somebody needs to stand up and look like and make a plausible case that whatever their views, actually, they're a winner, because that's what the members want.
Okay, Chris, great to have you back on the programme. Thanks for joining us. Chris Wilkins there, CEO of Audley Advisors, but also formerly of Downing Street, working with Theresa May. That's it from us for today. If you like the programme, don't forget to subscribe, give it 5 stars so other people can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or wherever you listen.
This episode was produced by Tiwa Adebayo and our audio engineer was Sean Guastamakia. I'm Yuan Potts.
And I'm Stephen Carroll. We'll be back with more on Monday. This is Bloomberg.
Bloomberg UK Politics. Listen weekdays at noon on DAB Digital Radio in London.